stumbled upon this book in a bookstore, and in a bookstore, obviously.
I read about it in a book.
And it is Leo Tolstoy's A Confession, amongst other religious writings that he has. A confession is just one part of this book. What caught my eye the most as I was reading the back cover was the question, what is religion, and of what does its essence consist? I've had a lot of questions lately about what exactly religion is, and if it's a pillar of our society, what exactly is it holding up? And if we choose to erode religion over time, what are the consequences of that? Essentially, short-term, long-term, whatever they may be. What is it that religion offers? It's stuck around for thousands of years, and I want to know what makes it so powerful exactly. And how does it resonate with so many people? Like, seemingly everyone can, in one way or another, find a passage or a book of the Bible and have it resonate with them, and that's just like, it's like a tiny miracle in and of itself, because not many books do that. But anyway, that's kind of my train of thought around religion and just trying to unlock those things about it. But let's get into my thoughts on this book, which turned out to be maybe the most interesting read of 2024 so far. The level of thought that Tolstoy has put into this is extensive, and he is a very smart man and has a lot of thoughts on the deepest questions of his time and our time. So where this book starts is with Tolstoy starting to question everything, and he gets to a very nihilistic and suicidal, dark place in his life. I'm not sure that it would have been obvious outwardly that this was occurring, but internally there was strife and conflict on a scale that maybe only those who were in his inner circle even knew about. He had everything. He had fame, fortune, all of it, and you would never think that he would be in this kind of spot, but he was. He noticed that his life seemed empty, and as you read this, his confession, it's clear that he was tormented for decades in trying to find answers to why there was this massive void in his soul. And he tried to figure things out from a very rational, intellectual, scientific perspective as he tries to ask the biggest questions that life poses. He found out that a rational approach, an intellectual approach, wasn't the right tool, so to speak, for those specific questions. And what happens in this book is we read through Tolstoy's incredible journey, a multi-decade journey of asking these questions about what things mean to him. And he almost takes a view that I think Descartes probably took when he came up with I think, therefore they am. I think, therefore I am, in that he stripped everything away. He started at zero and tried to build his own not his own interpretation. He tried to build his own conception of what religion was to him. And he did a lot of reading of philosophy and various religious texts. He really got to the core of things and started kind of a grassroots research project into this thing that we call religion. His rationality got him to that dark place, to that suicidal state, where he was incredibly nihilistic and thought that nothing mattered. And it's funny because he uses rationality as a tool to kind of peel back the layers on Christianity and religion in general, but I don't know if human beings can look at religion and try to understand it without using rationality. I just think rationality is so baked into who we are, and I don't think it is within us to just completely accept things of this magnitude on faith alone. I mean, we have an innate instinct to wonder why and how and to have things explained to us, and that's just a human thing. And so I think that we'd be lying to ourselves if all of us haven't wondered exactly what it is that religion is, what its essence is. And I know that there are people of very strong faith out there who don't question the whole religious apparatus quite as much as Tolstoy has in this book, but I do think they have questions. They may not be as existential, but I think that they do question God, or they question Christianity, whatever religion you want to throw in the hat. They question it to some degree. Now, this confession, you can definitely tell that it is somewhat a product of Tolstoy's time, and of course it has to be, but there was a lot of turmoil in Russia in the late 19th century. The inequality between the upper and lower classes of Russia was clearly at the forefront of Tolstoy's mind, and part of the conclusion he came to about religion in general, across all religions, is that people are created equal in the eyes of God. Now, he claims that to be the basis of religion, its fundamental presupposition. And I don't know if that would be my fundamental presupposition. I would have to think about that a little more, but it goes to show you how he was influenced by Russia's social milieu at the time and how that played into his thinking. And it's interesting to see his development through this process, because he starts going to church and he invests himself in what the church wants him to do, but he questions the processes of the church. And I think he questions the purpose of what the church is doing, and if that aligns with his understanding of what the church is supposed to be and what the church is supposed to do after he's read the religious texts. And he ultimately ends up in a spot where he emulates the life of a lower class Russian citizen. It's sort of like when you hear people say ignorance is bliss. He finds that to be correct to some degree, and I think it is, because he sees how they do things. They don't ask why. They just do things, and they act on faith, and they allow that to sustain them. And he really puts his rationality aside, and he's okay in the end with not being able to rationally explain everything. And he makes a point to say, philosophy can't really answer the questions that we ask, like what is the meaning of life. They can't really answer that question in the way that religion can, and he does a much better job of articulating that than I do, so I do encourage you to read this to get that explanation. But he chose to humble himself, and he wasn't really interested in his wealth or his estate or any of those things, the vanity of it all. He found his happiness, or he found his meaning, in living very humbly and below his means. And he actually says, quote, "And not only did the tenets of faith cease to appear necessary to me, but I was led by indisputable experience to the conviction that it was only these tenets that can give meaning to life." Now, his answer to the essence question of what is the essence of religion? Tolstoy says, quote, "Thus the essence of religion has been and still is understood by people with the highest human faculty as the establishing by man of a relationship with the infinite being or beings whose power he feels over him." He later defines religion as the definition of man's relationship to the origin of everything, and of the purpose acquired as a result of this relationship, and of the rules of conduct that follow from this purpose. What resonated with me in a big way is something that followed from his definition of a religion, and that's when he says, quote, "You are an instrument of a higher will that has sent you into the world to fulfill an appointed task. Know that will and fulfill it, and you will be doing the best thing possible for yourself." I think he hits the nail on the head there. I do think that we all have a gift. I truly believe that we all have a gift. We should find out what that gift is and find a way to use it to the best of our ability. And I think we will not be as happy as we would if we found out what that gift was, pursued it, and used it. I think everyone has that inner voice, whether you call it God, your conscience, whatever you want to call it, but they have that inner voice that tells them what to do and guides them in a way. And it's not always there, but I think that it's there when it needs to be there, if that makes sense. And it will guide you. It will tell you what you need to do. And if you listen to it, and act on it, I think that life will be much better for you than if you were to choose otherwise. And with that, I think it's a good place to stop. I could talk about this book for probably another 30 minutes to an hour. I won't do that. But if you are somebody who is interested in these questions, what is religion? What does its essence consist? You get to go into the mind of a master thinker, a master writer, and see how he develops through the decades and I think it's a wonderful experience reading this book. And if you're interested in other Tolstoy works, any of his other works, I think this, at the very least, is an informative piece of literature that will help you understand his other writings even more. And ladies and gentlemen, if you got any value whatsoever out of this video, please hit the like button, comment down below, of course, to let me know your thoughts. And as always, please subscribe to the channel for more content, and I hope to see you in the next video.